If you are trying to figure out this dumpster fire of a world that we live in, I have something for you to think about. So, most of us out here in the world believe that the police are generally necessary in a society like ours. They do good enough work. The general enterprise of the police is by and large a good thing, or at least a necessary part of our society. But here's the thing, some policemans do bad work. They take advantage of the authority and power they've been given. Some break laws. Some go as far as to murder people. And that is a bad thing. But we, as the general public, do not condemn the idea of policing itself. We do not dismiss the enterprise of a police department. We do not condemn the movement just because a few people in it are bad people. Most police are probably not bad people, and policing is something we take, again, as being necessary in our world. All we can really do is try to make it better. Hope that reform and accountability starts to weed out those few that give the whole a bad name. That's a pretty simple thought. So let's think about these protests then. In large part, these protests push for two things. One, they want a holistic appreciation of human rights for underprivileged people. And two, they want a reduction in the violence and abuse of power by the police. In the vast majority of cases, we are talking about peaceful protesters. The overwhelming majority of people are not there to cause violence. They are not there to loot, throw stones, but merely to espouse these two reasonable points in a vocal manner. But the problem is that some of these protesters are doing bad things. Perhaps some of them are looting, damaging property, being violent, being lethal. I have heard it said that whenever a movement becomes destructive, violent, or criminal, that is when it loses its validity. But this is not what we do with the police. We do not consider their movement to be invalidated if a few members are destructive, violent, or criminal. The presence of a few weeds in a garden does not demand that the garden is unhealthy, or without that necessary life-giving nourishment, or without beauty altogether. The garden is still a garden. What we have here is a conditional argument. Either both movements, policing and protesting, are bad, or they are both good enough. It's really easy for us to think this way. Humans want this idea of good and bad, but our entire world functions in a gray area. It just doesn't make sense to generalize things in terms of black and white.